This is critical, and we want to bring them accurate information. And that's why we're going to bring in the experts to this show.
Hello, I'm Gil Rogers, and we're here to introduce a program about Medfield State Hospital. And with me is Lucille Fisher, and the two of us are putting this series of programs together. We're both involved with the Medfield State Hospital through the Master Planning Committee. I'm on the Master Planning Committee. Lucille is on the Resource Committee that supports us. What are we trying to do with this program? We're trying to do three things. We're first of all trying to communicate to the Medfield community the current information about the hospital, what's going on at this time. The second thing we're trying to do is to discuss particularly important issues or questions that we have by bringing in experts that can discuss these issues. And then third, we're trying to get feedback, the involvement of the community back to us, so that we learn what issues are important to you, what values are important to you, so we hear about those.
One of the biggest things and the reasons for the show, you and I have talked about, is because the biggest question in town is what's happening with state hospital land. And actually, didn't you have an experience that you wanted to?
I have a dog, and I walk the dog every day, practically. And often, when there's not too much snow, I walk the dog at the Medfield State Hospital, and often run into people. And they'll have heard about the Medfield State Hospital, but the first thing they'll say is, well, what's going on up there? What's happening? So we felt that an important question that we try to address on this is to answer that question. And because it's changing all the time, we want to keep people up to date on the current situation, the current status of it.
Right, and I think all of us are experiencing the same thing, that's the biggest question on everyone's mind, what's happening, and we want to address it in a variety of different manners.
Yep. So this series of programs that we're putting together will try to bring in the expert, the person who's on the front line, the decision makers, the person who's intimately involved with a particular topic or issue, and we'll talk to them, discuss with them that current situation.
Yeah, I mean, the state hospital is the biggest thing our purchase as a community is definitely the biggest thing that's happened to us in a very, very long time. You told a funny story again about Selectman DeSorger saying it's the...
He says it's probably the biggest decision or the biggest event that's occurred to Medfield since the King Philip's War. And that was certainly a big event here.
Well, it's going to affect our future, and that's part of our communications committee came up with the tagline, which basically is our town, our land, and our future. Exactly. And that's why it's so important that we get this information out to our Medfield community, and that they get engaged.
Right.
That they get engaged. This is critical, and we want to bring them accurate information. And that's why we're going to bring in the experts to this show.
Let me just say a little bit about where we are right now. And first of all, just so everyone knows, and I think most people in the community are familiar with the hospital grounds, but we brought a map in to show kind of where we are. This is, of course, Hospital Road running through here. And we'll refer to often different parts of the property. One is what we commonly call the core campus, which is this area kind of right in here, with the chapel down in this region. And that's certainly where our priority is in the master planning. The second is the sledding hill, which is across Hospital Road, and right this time of the year, a lot of people are taking advantage of the great snow over in this area.
Yeah.
And the town has, as you all know, I think, purchased both of these pieces of property. This is roughly 90 acres. This is about 43 acres of land. We own it completely now. An LDA, land disposition agreement's been signed and registered. So it's our property to do what we want with. And the purpose of the master plan is to try to develop reuse or reuse options about that property. But also I should point out that in addition to these two key pieces, there's other properties that were one way or another associated with the hospital that we're also considering.
Adjacent properties.
Adjacent to it, that are connected to it. Of course, this is McCarthy Field, where the playing fields are down in here, and then lower down is the Hinckley Farm, which is another large piece of property, and then third is a piece of Ice House Road, number 3 Ice House Road, which is being discussed for development. The other two areas are hay fields that surround the main campus. In this area is one, and then on the other, near the Charles River, is another piece of property, and then even behind the hospital there's large hay fields. Now these pieces of property on the sides are being transferred to DCR, Department of Conservation and Recreation, so they're technically not part of Medfield, but there's very strict restrictions on how those would be used, just as open space and for agricultural purposes.
And it gets complicated, so that's why we want to break it down into short segments so that we'll be able to, so people can understand, you know, what's happening. And there's wonderful things. There's a lot of activity up here right now with the remediation that's going on, and
the water tower development.
Water tower.
Right. Right.
Right.
So just to be clear, what people say, well, what's going on up there?
Plan? Yeah,
and the answer is that we formed a master planning committee.
Right.
There's 9 members of the committee and this resource committee. And we're in the process of finalizing hiring a consultant, a master plan consultant, professional consultant that will really augment the talents of these two groups to help us in developing this, this plan. And that decision should be made shortly, with our hope that in March that company is on board and helping us and starting to support the group in the progress of the group.
And part of their mission is going to be really engaging the community.
Yep.
So we're really starting the process.
Yep. So this is basically a promotional video to encourage you to watch it. We're going to be broadcasting this on Medfield.tv, but also it's going to be put on YouTube, so that if you want to see other parts of the program as we go along, you'll be able to watch it. Lucille, maybe you'd like to just talk a little bit about what our ideas are for future programs.
Sure. We're hoping to certainly, again, hit on the most interesting and the most current information. And again, as we said, we want to bring in the experts. So some of our thoughts are, we'd like to talk about the goals and objectives of this master planning committee. You know, why are they in existence? You know, what are they trying to do? And you know, so I think our next show is going to be really, what are these goals and objectives,
right, which
will be informative, and will really lay the foundation for the rest of the shows. There are things happening with remediation up there. We're hoping to bring in experts up on the Charles River, which is looking absolutely gorgeous. We're hoping to bring in people on that, on the security. The town is now in charge of security, so Chief Meany has agreed to come in and do an interview with me. So we'll have different members of our committee coming in, interviewing like I said, the experts, maybe someone from Mass Smart Growth Alliance. We had talked about someone from the cultural, there's a big group of cultural stakeholders that are interested in seeing things done up at the state hospital. So we really want to bring all that information to you in these episodes.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's obviously very important is how we address certain housing needs in the community.
That's
and that's a very interesting, complex problem. I mean, there's a need for senior housing, but there's a need for people trying to downsize and empty nesters, and there's a need for affordable housing in Medfield, and I think that show, particularly talking about these demographic trends, will be particularly useful for the community to hear about.
Right, and we want to hear from the audience. We want to hear what you want to see as well. You know, what would you like to see?
Yeah, and one of the themes we're trying to do, as I'd mentioned in the beginning, one of the objectives, in addition to just communicating information and having interesting discussions about issues, is to really involve the community and to get input from the community on an ongoing basis. And maybe you'd like to just talk a little bit about how they can do that, how they actually can give that feedback.
So our communications committee, our whole purpose is to put in place ways that the community could engage and with the committee, and also how get information that they're looking to get, or they want, or they need. So we have a website that is www.mshvision.net. And people can go to that website, they can sign up for our newsletter, which is another way to get information. But there is a huge amount of information, historical information about how we got to this point, minutes of meetings. Really, people can delve very deeply, or they can just kind of get the overview of what's happening. So that is our main, a main source of information. But second, if you go to the homepage on the website, you can also sign up for our newsletter, and there's a couple of ways you can do that. But the newsletter comes out once a week, and it addresses just what the current issue or interesting thing that's happening. We've done a newsletter on the remediation. We've done a newsletter on the water tower. Frequently asked questions. That's there. So we have the newsletter. So you can go to the homepage, sign up there. Go to Facebook. It's again MSH Vision is the Facebook page. You can sign up for the newsletter right from there, and you can also keep up on information.
Great. So I think we really would encourage people to do that, to communicate with us. And if you're interested, we'd like to invite you even on this program if you'd like to have a particular point of view. And I think we would like to thank you very much for listening to the program, and Lucille and I really look forward to talking to you approximately every month or so, or where there's some special piece of information we're trying to get out. So with that, thank you very much, and we look forward to talking to you soon.
Right, thank you, and we're excited. This is one of the biggest things happening in town, and we're excited to help you learn what the latest is. Thanks for watching.
Production support provided by Medfield.tv. Access to our community.